Thanks very much, Mark. Lovely evening for football. It is cold on the south coast, but there's hardly any breeze. It is bone dry. Newcastle in their change strip, the green shirts, white shorts, white socks. I've got to get this game started, playing from right to left as we look down. Any house team can go ahead of Manchester United and Villa with a win here. And Bournemouth, as long as they don't lose, they could be on their way out of the relegation zone this evening. We'll give you a full rundown of the teams in just a moment, but Glenn Murray alongside me. We've been saying it probably for 2 weeks now. Newcastle down to the bare bones, and they seem to lose players every match that comes. No Callum Wilson today against his old team.
Yeah, no Callum Wilson and no return for Isak either, so that leaves no recognised centre forward that we know of in the Newcastle ranks. And when I get a look at this Newcastle 11,
first attack for Bournemouth. Christie's shot on target is saved by Nick Pope. Ryan Christie hit it from the edge of the penalty area, left-footed. It was high, but it was on target. And Pope sort of fumbled it, palmed it volleyball style up into the air, and was able to catch it as it came back down again. First intent, first shot on target for the hosts.
Yes, indeed. And I was just leading on to say there, when I get a look at this Newcastle 11, Bournemouth must really fancy their chances, and they've got to try and take some momentum out of their last win here at the Vitality and really take this game to Newcastle United this evening.
Yes, how ambitious will Bournemouth be? They will look at the Newcastle bench as real evidence of just how scraping the barrel that Eddie Howe is. And we know how much money Newcastle have and what a big squad they have, but they're missing so many. And, you know, Bruno Guimaraes suspended today doesn't help. Isak, Jacob Murphy, Byrne, Botman, Barnes, Anderson, Target, Manquillo, Tonali, who's banned. That's a lot of players out of any team. Could today be the day for Bournemouth to get at Newcastle with those three players on the bench, three kids who've never played for the first team before, and two goalkeepers. Here down the right-hand side comes Semenyo. It's a good run. Chance to shoot from the edge of the area. Pope saves again. Two attempts on target inside 2 minutes for Bournemouth.
Yes, and exactly what I expected from Bournemouth. And a brilliant mazy run from Semenyo. He cuts in on his left foot. He drives in towards the heart of the Newcastle box, and he hits a shot just on the 18-yard box, low and hard. But Pope's equal to it, down to his left, asking questions of the Newcastle goalkeeper already though.
There's a throw in on the left-hand side. Lloyd Kelly takes it for Bournemouth to the byline. Solanke hooks in across. Looked like the ball might have gone out of play. Newcastle know all about that from last weekend against Arsenal. It'll fall to Semenyo here in the penalty area. Back inside the box was Lewis Miley. The ball bounced awkwardly up towards his stomach, and Bournemouth fans were screaming for handball in the penalty area, but I don't think it was anyway. And the ball is cleared away, and all the way back to Neto, one of the 5 changes for Bournemouth. The Brazilian back in goal for the home side, 0-0.
Yeah, that was a brilliant ball in there by Dominic Solanke, and he was only Semenyo and Lewis Hall in the box, and Lewis Hall puts his arms out to feel Semenyo because he can't see him. The ball's coming from the opposite direction. Semenyo nips in front of him for a second. I'm sure Lewis Hall's heart was in his mouth, but the ball's just a little bit too high for Semenyo to get his header back on target.
So it's a flat back four that Bournemouth have begun with. Lloyd Kelly on the left-hand side, Zabani alongside Senesi, who's back in the team tonight, Max Aarons as usual on the right-hand side. In midfield, Lewis Cook, Ryan Christie, Marcus Tavernier, with Semenyo wide right, Dominic Solanke through the middle, and Kluivert on the left-hand side of the attack. Neto's clearance right-footed, trying to clear the lines. He had started the first 9 Premier League games this season, Neto, but Radu had come in to start the last 2 before today. Joe Linton on the left-hand side for Newcastle feeds it into Joe Willock, and then Longstaff gives it back to Almiron. This is a good 20 yards outside the penalty area that Newcastle attack. Trippier's available right-hand side, plays a nice ball in front of Longstaff, and this is a crossing position right-hand side for Newcastle. Twisting is Almiron, trying to shrug off the attentions of Kluivert. Back to Trippier again on the right-hand side, and Newcastle trying to develop into something of a tempo and a rhythm, and a pass from young 17-year-old Lewis Miley back to Fabian Schär. Lewis Hall comes forward on the left-hand side, but Joe Linton can't receive, and Semenyo's away again, running towards the halfway line, tackled by Miley. That'll do Miley's confidence the world of good.
Yes, it will indeed. Just tried to get away there, Semenyo, but didn't have many options in front of him. As we see Newcastle just get a foothold in the game. This is more what Eddie Howe will expect coming down here at the South Coast. He's limited, but he'll feel that his 11 is good enough to take this game on and take 3 points home. But it's going to be a big ask of Newcastle United tonight. You can tell that the home faithful are on board with that last win out here. A little bit of momentum there, looking to try and step outside of the relegation zone and just I suppose kickstart their season with a couple of wins.
That's the voice of Glanmurray watching this game with us here at the Vitality Stadium. Zabani is possession for Bournemouth. Halfway line, gives it short to Ryan Christie. Back behind to Senesi, so a chance to give you the Newcastle team. Nick Pope in goal, Trippier, Lascelles, Share and Hall the back four, Longstaff, Miley and Joe Linton in midfield, Almiron, Willock and Gordon in the attack. And sometimes it's Joe Linton who goes in ahead of Willock. I think they will swap that role as the day goes on. Here comes Max Aarons, good storming run down the right hand side. Semenyo takes it off him again, goes in field of Lewis Hall, who hits the deck inside his own penalty area. Newcastle win back possession. Joe Linton with a nutmeg on Ryan Christie, and then Hall is able to clear the ball away long up over the halfway line towards Anthony Gordon, who is the central attacker. A week ago at St James's Park when Newcastle beat Arsenal, Gordon went in centre forward and within seconds scored the goal that decided the game, and anyhow hoping that he can profit in that position again.
Yes, that's exactly what he'll want from the young man up front in Anthony Gordon. He wants that outlet, especially when they're under a little bit of pressure. He gets down the left hand side there, carries the ball, gets his team up the field, eventually winning a corner. Brilliant centre forward play.
Corner to Newcastle, left hand side. Anthony Gordon with 2 goals in his last 3 Premier League games. No Isak, no Wilson. Corner's going to be taken by Trippier. Rolls it short to Anthony Gordon. Almiron across as well, and then back to Trippier, who tries to play it in, and good work by Tavernier, who blocks it down and takes some of the progress away from Newcastle here. It's a poor ball by Lewis Hall. Bournemouth regained possession. Newcastle with many players forward were light to the back, so Trippier wasn't taking any chances, and he thunders into a sliding tackle on Tavernier and puts the ball out of play.
Yeah, that's the right word, thunders in, because if he wasn't taking the ball, he was taking everything there. He knew if Tavernier got past him, he was in acres of space. Trippier reads the situation, comes up and cleans it up for Newcastle.
First time today that Andoni Iraola has come up against Newcastle, or indeed has come up against Eddie Howe as a manager. He's made 5 changes today, which is the most alterations that Iraola has made between Premier League games since coming in, and he wants a reaction from the 6-1 defeat last weekend. Mind you, 6-1 away at Manchester City isn't quite the same as 6-1 in other places, but he clearly wants to see something different today.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think when you say 6-1 away at the Etihad, it's one of those that you've just got to put to bed right away, forget about, move on, and don't let the Premier League get on top of you. These are the games at home that they're going to try and make count.
Good work from Share, lunging in ahead of Semenyo to win the ball. Joe Linton to the edge of the penalty area, shuffles it to the right to Longstaff, good shot, and I think it was touched over. It was Neto getting his fingertips to it. There was power in that from Sean Longstaff, and it's going to be another corner. Longstaff, who scored against Bournemouth here 4 seasons ago.
Yeah, just gets it on his right foot and he fancies, why not have a dig? He catches it nice and clean, but it's down Neto's neck, manages to just get a touch on that. Well, it's a swirling, moving ball as it's coming down the goalkeeper. It might be right at him, but he needs a lot of concentration to keep his eye on that ball as it's really travelling towards him. Tips it over for a Newcastle corner.
So Trippier, who with his earlier corner attempt played it short, might well look to send this one into the box. Bournemouth 0, Newcastle United 0. Fine line from the BBC. Here it comes from Trippier. Attacking the front post there was Fabian Schär, but Bournemouth had defenders in that area and are able to clear away. Lewis Hall inside the centre circle all by himself. Gives it back to the left-hand side to Trippier. That's a clever ball. Schär, left-hand side, on his right boot, sends an in-swinging cross, headed towards the edge of the box to Almiron, is tackled by Semenyo. Now the break is on. Newcastle need to get players back. It's a run by Tavernier, and he was running so fast he pushed the ball too far in front of him, and Lewis Hall, sweeping over from left-back, was able to make the tackle. He was the last man.
Yes, Tavernier was just a little bit eager to try and get away there, wasn't he? Pushed that ball just a little bit too far in front of him, and Lewis Hall will be very thankful that he just right into his path and he's managed to clear it up.
Here they come again, Bournemouth attacking down the left-hand side. Tavernier's cross is low and straight at Fabian Schär, who was able to clear away, so still 0-0. Well, we know the Champions League has increased Newcastle's workload this season. We are into the quarter-finals of the League Cup too. We're beginning to see the evidence of it, but I was at Old Trafford for the last round of the League Cup, but it was very much a second-string Newcastle team, the likes of Emil Trapp and Matt Ritchie, a former Bournemouth player, and Paul Dummett, and these guys who don't get to play very often, and they all played very well, and they beat Manchester United by 3-0. So there is another layer there for Eddie Howe. It's just not, potentially rusty layer. It hasn't had much Premier League action lately.
Yeah, without doubt there is another layer, and it's a solid layer in all fairness. I'm not sure how much creativity and goal scoring it's got, and that is probably the one question you've got over Newcastle, and that's why I expect them to be active when it comes to January. But for now, it's about ticking these games off, getting to January and being able to dip into the market. But so far I'm sure Eddie Howe will be happy that the way his players have reacted after the opening 3 minutes when Bournemouth burst onto this pitch.
Here's a chance, Solanke for Bournemouth, into the penalty area, there's no flag, but he took too long. Lascelles sliding back, he ran from the edge of the penalty area into the 6-yard box. Dominic Solanke, you've got to pull the trigger, and Lascelles was able to slide across to put it out for the corner.
Yes, poor marking by the Newcastle centre-backs. Dominic Solanke is away, but he just sort of idles into the box. He never tries to shift it onto his dominant left foot, wants to take it on his right. And I also think he had an option of Tavernero's breaking his neck to catch him up to square the ball, and he did say something just after the ball was cleared.
They've had a couple of shots on target before that, but that's been Bournemouth's best chance. And Solanke, their top scorer, I think he at least tests the goalkeeper. Here comes the corner, played in by Tavernier towards the back post. Solid right fist punch by Nick Pope, clears it well outside the penalty area, but Lloyd Kelly collects, and he's going to try and get into a position here to keep this attack alive. Gives it back to Lewis Cook, right-footed ball into the penalty area, hits the upper thigh of Joe Linton, and Newcastle should be able to clear away. Still 0-0.
Good goalkeeping there from Nick Pope, dominant in his own area. Semenyo was up, he was hanging in the air ready to head that, but Nick Pope comes out like a Superman in blue and punches that ball clear. Got good purchase on the ball.
The three youngsters on the Newcastle bench today: Amadou Diallo, who is a winger, Alex Murphy, who's a young Irish defender, Ben Parkinson, who's an English forward. He's been on the bench for recent games. He played in a pre-season friendly, a few pre-season friendlies, but no sort of senior appearance for Ben Parkinson, who, if anything was to happen to the attackers for Newcastle, could be thrust into the Premier League limelight today.
Yes, without doubt. And I suppose it's that balance for Bournemouth of sort of wanting to carry on that momentum down here at the Vitality, but also thinking if we can frustrate Newcastle for long enough, they've got nothing from the bench, they've got no creativity from the bench, and then we can hit them. It's that balance of trying to find which one they're going to be successful with this evening.
Eddie Howe, of course, knows this part of the world extremely well. He's ingrained into the fibre of Bournemouth Football Club, at such a successful spell in charge here. He took the club from the 4th tier up to the top tier. He had 2 different spells as Bournemouth manager, and 9 of the current Bournemouth squad were signed by Eddie Howe, so his imprint is still very much evident. But he is the opposition coach today, and he's got a problem here because Fabien Schär, the Swiss international, has sat down on the ground. Nick Pope is going to throw the ball out. Injury worries continuing for Newcastle and Eddie Howe.
Yes, and the opening 12 minutes of this game, and that is the last thing Eddie Howe and his coaching staff need, is another injury. The list is already long enough, and unfortunately for Fabien Schär, there was no movement there. He decided to sit down. He looks quite uncomfortable, and it looks like Newcastle could be forced into another change. And you mentioned Eddie Howe there, and I just wonder if him and Jason Tyndall standing down on there on that line, they've stood there so many times before. I wonder if it still feels strange standing on the opposite side of the dugout.
Yeah. I wonder when he came out, did he have to do a little sidestep, Eddie Howe? So used to, over the years, almost a memory imprint to go to the home dugout. Schär's still getting treatment. Emil Kraft is doing the most vigorous of the warm-ups. Kraft, who made his first appearance of the season in that League Cup game at Old Trafford 10 days ago. His first game since that ACL injury at the start of last season. He picked it up against Tranmere when we've been at Prenton Park that night. Schär is back up on his feet. He will leave the field. The question is, will he come back on? He's walking, he's not hobbling. I think there's a fair chance Fabien Schär continues here.
Yeah, I can't quite make it out for me, but has he got a gash on his knee there, or is it? or is it just a bit of mud? But also the other centre half, Lascelles, has come over and he's asking for a new pair of shorts because he's got a hole wide open down the back right hamstring of his shorts.
So it's all falling apart for Newcastle here. 0-0, literally at the Vitality. Speaking of shorts, while we have a break in play, there's something off-putting about Neto's shorts. They're a different shade of yellow to his shirt and his socks. They're almost the same. It's like you've put it in the wash and it's come out slightly different colour. You put them in a different wash. It is what it's meant to be, but there's something that's, I just don't know, something just putting me off about the slightly different shade of yellowy orange of his shorts. I mean, I know first world problems and all that.
Do we put it down to questionable football fashion?
Yeah, it's probably that. It's probably
pairing a luminous yellow and yellow together.
Yeah, I'm sure it's called electric yellow or something like that, as the manufacturers usually call it. Right, we're back underway. Newcastle have got possession. Shearer's okay to continue. He's come back onto the field. Iriola felt that he hadn't actually received permission to do so. Says, what's going on? Officials are happy because he was due back on anyway. Longstaff had just dropped in to cover Shearer, and he's got possession on the edge of the Newcastle penalty area. Tries to play a direct ball up to Anthony Gordon. Well, cut out by Senesi. Now Solanke gets it. Edge of the Newcastle penalty area. Bournemouth playing left to right as we look down. Crossing the left-hand side from Tavernier. Hits the upper body, certainly, of Kieran Trippier. There were shouts that it was a handball. Officials are happy for play to continue for now. Kelly will give it back to Lewis Cook again, but you said it right once the team sheets came out today, Glenn, that this was an opportunity for Bournemouth to go at it, and they have been on the front foot. They are playing very high up the pitch.
Yes, they have, and they've had the better of the opportunities. A little bit sloppy in front of goal, probably. I'm sure when Dominic Solanke watches that chance back, he'll wish he could have it again, because he might be a little bit faster and he might try and shift it onto his left foot, but Bournemouth still in the ascendancy here.
This is Tavernier trying to turn. He's done well and gets it up towards Solanke, and Shearer goes down again, and the referee says that Solanke has fouled Shearer, and no ill effects of the injury a moment ago as the Swiss international jumps back to his feet. Then Clivert fouls Longstaff. Free kick to Newcastle. Frantic start to the game on 5 Live. Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0. Earlier on today, Tottenham were 1-0 up against Wolves until very late on at Molineux, and then 2 late goals turned it around. Wolves 2, Tottenham 1. Bad week for Ange Postecoglou. 2 defeats back-to-back in the league. Here comes Lewis Hall on the attack for Newcastle. Low left-footed shot is straight at the goalkeeper Tame. He scored at Old Trafford in that League Cup win against Manchester United. Lewis Hall, that was his first goal for Newcastle, but he never really got the power behind that effort.
No, he didn't, but that's the first Newcastle attack with ended in a shot, in all fairness. He's got in there, he's shifting on his left foot inside the box, and he's trying to hit it across Neto, but like you said, just didn't quite get the purchase. And now we've got a Bournemouth player who's gone down off the ball, and that's Semenyo. Looks like he's holding his right ankle.
Yeah, Semenyo looks like he's in need of treatment. His teammates have possession. They're playing on without him for the moment. He sort of got back up to his feet and he's gone straight back down again, so he tried to put weight on that ankle, and down he goes. They put the ball out of play and he's going to need some treatment, so 0-0 it remains for now. Elsewhere, earlier on today, Arsenal beat Burnley by 3-1. Goals for Trossard, Saliba, Zinchenko, who got his first home goal for Arsenal. They finished with 10 men after Fabio Vieira was sent off. Crystal Palace were beaten at home 3-2 by Everton. Goals for Nikolenko, Doucouré and Idrissa Gana Gueye. But a 5-goal thriller at Selhurst Park. Manchester United scraping through Lindelof's goal around the hour mark, giving them a 1-0 win against Luton, and a victory that Eric Ten Hag very much needed. We've just seen in our monitors an image of Philip Billing, the Danish international, who's watching on from the stands, and he's not involved today for Bournemouth.
Big miss for Bournemouth. He's been an imposing figure of everything positive they've done in the last couple of years, and to miss him today, it's a big one, and big boots to fill. But Semenyo, he's been positive so far in this game, and just wonder if he's going to manage to carry on. He's trying to shake it off this right angle as he gingerly steps towards the touchline alongside the physio, having an in-depth conversation.
Semenyo, who joined back in January for Bristol City, had played on loan at Sunderland in the past. He's not yet completed 90 minutes in the Premier League this season, Antoine Semenyo. He is going to come back on here, gets a little pat on the back from Andoni Iraola. It was 2 years ago this week that Eddie Howe was appointed Newcastle coach. They were 19th in the table when he arrived. Top 6 at the moment, now a Champions League club, Newcastle, but they haven't been in the top 4 since the opening weekend. That said, league form's been very good in recent weeks, and after a tricky spell when they had 3 poor matches in a row in the league, Eddie Howe's team, despite the injury and suspension problems, do look to be in much better fettle these days. Long ball is played forward. Joe Linton, who's currently leading the line, chases after it. Kelly gets there first, back to Zabani. The Ukrainian pumps it long, straight up towards the Newcastle penalty area. Lascelles gets there ahead of Solanke. Ball falls for Trippier, who launch it away as well. And very much clear your lines for Newcastle there. 2 long boots up the field in a row.
Yeah, Newcastle just getting rid of it there, managing the situation. I think they've gone for a little formation change, like you say, and he's now on the left hand side, and they've gone for more of the physical presence of Joe Linton up front, and that might just be able to take a little bit of pressure, play it into his feet and get people to run off him.
Last weekend Bournemouth did keep Manchester City to 0-0 for the first half of an hour, but Pep Guardiola's side went out 6-1 winners in the end, so Bournemouth fans won't be getting too excited about a good start here. They want to see a full 90-minute performance this evening. Neto clears it straight down the pitch. Dominant header won by Lewis Hall, who's covering for the injured Dan Brains. They reckon Dan Brains won't be back until the new year with that lower back injury he picked up last weekend. Justin Kluivert gives it out to Marcus Tavernier. Marcus Tavernier, who came through the youth system with his brother James at Newcastle in the past, so he'll be well aware of the club that he's playing against today. Sinisi here, who scored in this game last season. Pressure from Gordon, but he can't get there ahead of Zabani, and Bournemouth clear it away. Trippier for Newcastle gets it back 15 yards inside his own half. Turns and gives it to Lascelles, who's still deputising for the injured Botman. That's good work by Sinise to win possession for Bournemouth, but then he runs into young Lewis Miley, who on his first Premier League start has had a steady start to the game. He's not stuck out as an inexperienced player in this opening stage of the match.
No, not at all. He's holding his own in there, especially with Sean Longstaff next to him, who just seems to grow with every performance in maturity and stature, and I'm sure he's helping the young man next to him through this game, just keeping the right position and holding when needed, and also bursting when needed.
I walked past Lewis Miley earlier on, but he was sitting down in the bench here just after the teams arrived, and I thought, wow, he looks like a schoolboy, he looks like he's 14. Then he stood up, and when he stands up, he doesn't look like he's 14. He's got a man's body with that boyish face on top of it, but he is only 17.
Yeah, he's long, isn't he? He's a tall young man, but he looks like he could fill out a little bit more and just grow in stature, like we've seen.
Tavernier ball into the penalty area. Solanke tries to turn share and runs into the Swiss international, who clears away.
Yes, again, Bournemouth trying to just find Solanke in a little bit of space in the Newcastle area. Couldn't quite get it under control, but Bournemouth come again.
Midway through the first half, Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0. Tomorrow will bring you commentary of Liverpool against Brentford in the Premier League, and Chelsea against Manchester City, which is the 4:30 game. Tomorrow will be all over those here on 5 Live. Semenyo holds off Lewis Hall, good upper body strength, rolls the ball back to Marcus Sinise, one of the 5 changes in Guardiola's team for this game. Max Aarons controls the ball. He's featured in every Premier League match this season, but he's challenged by Anthony Gordon. Gordon, who's gone back to the left wing at the moment, with Joe Linton in the more central attacking role, which, remember, when he came, Joe Linton, to Newcastle first, he played as an attacker, and he wasn't anywhere near as effective as he's become as a midfielder, but who knows? Long clearance by Sinise down the left wing. Tavernier, who's seeing a lot of the ball for Bournemouth, has got Trippier absolutely all over him, growling down his neck. Tavernier tries a trick there where he kind of backheeled the ball through Trippier's legs and tried to run around the other side, but he didn't realise that Longstaff was located behind, and Newcastle get it back again. Almiron, whose name we've not mentioned too often in this opening quarter of the match so far. Almiron, who came off the bench against Dortmund but didn't start. It was Livramento who played in that right wing attacking position in Germany in midweek. Hall slightly miscontrolled. Semenyo seizes an opportunity to pounce. Hall is struggling here, falls to his feet, off his feet, but manages to release the pass into Miley. Back to Hall again. That's better for Newcastle as they keep it moving up to the halfway line, and Gordon stretches it out into space on the right hand side. Almiron pushes it in front of Joe Linton. Sinise's the defender who comes across to cover, and he's done well. Excellent from Sinise, and Bournemouth regain possession. 0-0.
Yeah, a lovely bit of play down this left hand corner. from the two Lewises in Newcastle, Miley and Hall, combining to just get Newcastle out what was becoming a little bit of a sticky situation. Launched an attack that came to nothing.
Bournemouth have got a tough run of games. It was Liverpool 10 days ago, Manchester City away last Saturday, Newcastle here today. They'll enjoy the rest of the international break to come, and in a fortnight back underway again with Aston Villa, who come here before back-to-back away games at Crystal Palace and at Manchester United for Bournemouth, who've suffered a disappointing start to the season. Gary O'Neill had a big win today. You know, remember that story in the summer? So many raised eyebrows when they decided to replace him with Iriola, and the results haven't quite matched the prowess he had with Rayo Vallecano in Spain last season. Long ball forward. Now surely has Pope caught that outside the penalty area. His left foot was planted outside the box, but of course it's all to do with where the actual ball was. And Darren Cann, who is the assistant, had a very good view of that, and he's happy that Nick Pope did not handle that outside the penalty area. At the very least, it was tight.
That was extremely tight, and it was on the left-hand side of the area, the one closest to us at the moment. We've just seen a rerun of it here, but without doubt he looks out. The ball's curling just towards him, and I think if you draw a line between the ball and the 18-yard box, it's probably right on line, isn't it? Really tight, but I suppose you've got to say good goalkeeping.
Yeah. Nick Pope commanded his penalty area with absolutely no margin for error there. So Lascelles at the back, clears it right-footed up to the halfway line. Longstaff down for Trippier. Trippier pops it over the top, and Almiron will sprint ahead of Kelly. Now this is a good battle. Almiron against Kelly, and Kelly stretches out one of those long spidery legs of his, and he manages to shadow it out for a corner, but Almiron was close to skinning him there.
Yeah, he was running out of space, wasn't he? Lloyd Kelly's trying to step across Miggy Almiron. He steps and just Almiron just dangles a leg and manages to flick it off Lewis Kelly for a corner, but
great action replay of that in slow motion there. I mean, he's a firm grip at the back of Almiron's shirt there. He's trying to swap shirts mid-game there, Lloyd Kelly. And to be fair to Almiron, he's not made a song and dance about it. Newcastle get the corner on the right-hand side. 27 minutes played. 5 live for the BBC at the Vitality. This is the 5:30 kickoff in the Premier League. Willock chips it in. There's a header for Lascelles, and it's saved by Pope. By Neto. Jamal Lascelles was offside anyway. It wouldn't have counted, but he did well. He got up. He powered the header down. Neto made a good save, but it wouldn't have counted anyway.
No, he didn't. And Lewis Miley was just in front of him. He looked to me like he got a good shove in the back as that ball just floated over his head, but yes, we can see there Jamal Lascelles just creeps offside. Good header, good purchase on the finish, but it wouldn't have counted anyways. Neto keeps it out. Oh, he actually took a really big deflection off Lloyd Kelly's forehead, which redirected it on target, and Neto was alive to it.
It would have been a good birthday present for Jamal Lascelles, who turns 30 today. Back when he was a Nottingham Forest player, he scored against Bournemouth. That was in the Championship 8 years ago now. Hall here gives it up to Willock, who tries to turn Zabarnyi, but I've always been impressed with Zabarnyi. Young defender who's so solid, and he wasn't being fooled by that little swing of the hips by Joe Willock there, in one possession back for Bournemouth. They don't keep it though. And after a good early spell, the opening 15 minutes, Bournemouth had all the possession. Newcastle seeing more and more of the ball now. That's a good interception by Lewis Cook though, and his 250th appearance in his league career. Now they come through the centre. That's good. Kluivert, chance to shoot, right-footed. Pope dives to his right and makes a good save. Good shot from Kluivert. He was far out, but that was on target, and Pope makes a fine save. Corner.
He did indeed. Kluivert gets on the half turn and realises all of a sudden it's 4 on 4. He doesn't look for a teammate. He has one thing in his mind: I'm going to hit this. Good diving save to Pope's right hand side. Seemed comfortable all along though, the goalkeeper, even though it was a bit of a photography moment.
Justin Kluivert's father Patrick, who played for Newcastle and also scored home and away against them for Barcelona in the Champions League. Patrick Kluivert in the past. The injury woes are continuing for Newcastle. The latest player down is Miguel Almiron, and he looks quite distressed there actually. He's sitting up, but he's got anguish and pain all over his face as the physio runs on, and there is activity in the technical area to suggest that Almiron is not going to be able to continue here. So Newcastle, who've already had the injury in the game to Share, who was able to continue, now are sweating over Almiron, and it's another former Bournemouth man, it's Matt Ritchie who's receiving instructions down on the touchline, and if Almiron isn't fit to continue, it looks like it'll be Ritchie who will come on. Ritchie who came on against Arsenal last weekend, start to the previous League Cup match, previous domestic game against Manchester United, but has had very little Premier League experience over the last year or so, Matt Ritchie, but he's going to get a chance here if Almiron isn't able to continue, and we're still waiting to see. There's a shake of the head from Almiron. It doesn't look good.
No, the physio it looked like it could be a muscle injury. It looked like he was just stretching his hamstring, checking his hamstring, and if that is a hamstring for Almiron, I think it's in the very early stages, and it's a precautionary change, but also one that is probably through fatigue of the fixture list, and the change is going to be made, and it's the former Bournemouth man Matty Ritchie that's going to come onto the field.
It's not good news for Eddie Howe, because Almiron's one of the few goal scorers left in his team. But the Paraguayan makes way. Nice warm applause from both sets of supporters for Matt Ritchie, and Bournemouth fans remembering his contributions to the club in the past as they give him a warm welcome back to the Vitality Stadium. Corner to Bournemouth. Now the play can get back underway. Cook is standing over, far side of the field from us. Left hand side as Bournemouth come forward. Short run up from Cook. In swinger, Pope punches, comes to Christie, back in on target, saved by Pope again. He's been by far the busier goalkeeper. It hits the corner flag and then goes out for a throw.
Yes, I just watched as that corner was being taken, and his 6-yard box is absolutely packed. I think there's about 17 players in it, but yet he's dominant. He comes out, he punches it, just lands to a Bournemouth player, and he hits it back in, bounces off the turf, but again, Pope equal to it. Really good save.
It was good technique from Ryan Christie. He hit it down into the turf and made it an even better shape from Pope to be able to judge how high it was going to bounce as it came flashing towards him. A crowd of bodies that Glenn mentioned in the way. Newcastle trying to play their way out from the back here. Lewis Miley, number 67, the 17-year-old. Back to Lascelles, who close up to the halfway line. Joe Linton turns like an ocean liner in a big wide arc, but he does turn, gives it back to Miley, who's drilled the pass here to Lewis Hall, who's going to put the brakes on and sprint back just to ensure it doesn't go out of play. This is Gordon cutting in off the left wing, gets a nudge in the back from Max Aarons. Referee says that's sufficient to blow the whistle and give the free kick to Newcastle. Still 0-0.
I think that's the reason why Eddie Howe's plays number 7 in the number 9 position. Joe Linton, just that physical presence where they can have an outlet, get it into feet. He said he turned slowly. I thought he turned quite well personally. He kept possession and just got his team up the field a little bit.
But it wasn't slowly. It was the white. He didn't sort of twist and turn. He kind of went around in an arc to avoid the defenders. But it just made me chuckle. Joe Linton, who is always one of the first names on Eddie Howe's team sheet. He's been called up for the international games for Brazil this coming week, and they've got Colombia and Argentina, 2 big games for Brazil, and Joe Linton will be in that Brazilian squad during the international break.
That's actually probably the last thing Eddie Howe wanted or needed, in all fairness, because he hasn't got many players left, and the last thing he'll want is him travelling halfway around the world on international duty and tiring himself out even more.
Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0. Final line for the BBC of the Premier League as Jamal Lascelles drifts over into a right back position, plays the ball into Matt Ritchie. Ritchie knows every blade of grass on this pitch from his time as a Bournemouth player, and Longstaff gives it back to Lascelles once again. But Newcastle haven't quite displayed that explosive counter-attacking quality that we know they have. They've struggled to get Gordon into the game. They didn't really get Almiron into the game very much when he was on the pitch, and Trippier hasn't been able to get forward much either. There's not been much threat in attack from the visitors here. Free kick to Bournemouth midway inside the Newcastle half. It's a chance for Bournemouth to send bodies forward.
Yeah, well, there is that stat out there, isn't it? Newcastle winless in 6 without Bruno in the centre of the park since his debut in February 2022. Could it be number 7?
Yeah, he's made such an impact, hasn't he, Bruno Guimaraes, since coming into this Newcastle team. He was one of the first big-name, big-money players to arrive with a new investment. As Cook plays the free kick into the penalty area, Miley's header out as far as Tavernier, good close touch control, gives it back to Lewis Cook, and then there's all sorts of raising arms here. His teammates call for it to be played in. Pope comes to the edge of the penalty area, well judged, punches the ball again and sends it out for a throw in to Bournemouth. But yes, every game that Bruno Guimaraes, for whatever reason, has missed for Newcastle since coming, they haven't won any of them.
And just opposite us, the people making all the noise are the travelling Geordies, and I think they can just sense that their team are on the back foot, not necessarily in the game, but just a couple of players going down to the bare bones, and they're being loud, they're being heard, and they're cheering their men.
That's one way to get a break, as Nick Pope boots the ball over the top of the stand on the far side, one of the lower rise stadiums in the Premier League. The Vitality, and Pope just booted it out into the car park.
Well, I was going to say that it's not exactly hard to do here, is it?
Neto has cleared it right-footed up over the halfway line. Semenyo beaten in the air by Lewis Hall. Willock in a tangle with Christie. Ryan Christie stretches, does well to get possession, and hopes to send Bournemouth on the attack here. Solanke just drops deep, gives it to Semenyo on the right-hand side. Bournemouth playing left to right as we look down in the red and black stripes. Zabani's right-footed ball into Christie in the midfield. First touch wasn't quite killing it, but he's done well to hold on to possession, and that's a poor pass, and Ritchie will intercept for Newcastle and get it back midway inside their own half. Miley back to Ritchie again, foul by Ryan Christie. Free kick Newcastle in the centre circle.
Even when Newcastle aren't maybe at the free-flowing best, they're still difficult. They still get back, they still block that centre of the field, and they're hard to play against. And I suppose from a Bournemouth point of view, and Antonio Raiola looking at it from the sidelines, he'll probably want more from Kluivert and a little bit more from Semenyo. He started the game really brightly, but since then it's fizzled out.
Already this evening, Bournemouth have had more attempts on target in this half hour or so that we've played in this match than Arsenal did in the full 90 minutes last weekend against Newcastle. That's Aarons back to Ryan Christie, back to the edge of the penalty area, and to Marcus Senesi. Since the start of last season, Newcastle haven't lost a league game to any team below the top third of the table. You look at the games they have lost, it's been all the big boys, the teams up around the European places. This is Aarons on the right-hand side. Right-footed ball. Solanke did well to get in front of Cher. Oh, it's bounced up onto the hand of the defender. Semenyo's shot is just wide. VAR will look at this. It did look at the hands were down by the side. It has struck the hand of Cher, but will that make any difference? Semenyo tried to follow up anyway, and his side-footed, right-footed shot curled away from that bottom corner.
Well, we'll address Solanke backheeling it into Semenyo's path, and it does flick up, and it does come off the hand of the Bournemouth of the Newcastle defender, but no way is that a penalty. His arms are by his side, but the travesty is Semenyo. He waddles into the box, he's got a free shot on target, and he just pulls it wide at Pope's right hand side. They've got to hit the target there. They've been in so many good situations in this first half. Bournemouth, will they rue them come the end of this game?
Yeah, missed opportunity so far for Antonio Iraola's side. Antoine Semenyo, who scored against Burnley in the last Premier League game played here a couple of weeks ago. He also scored at Liverpool earlier on this season. There's a header by Lewis Miley, tries to pick out Joe Linton, and the referee blows the whistle, and that's a free kick to Bournemouth, which is taken quickly. There's Zabani looking for Semenyo down the right-hand side. Hall tries to get out and get close to him. Right in by the corner flag that Bournemouth attacked down the right-hand side. Semenyo tried to do some sort of trick there. He stood on the ball, and suffice to say it wasn't the outcome he was hoping for. He's lost possession. Hall plays it up towards Joe Linton, using that strength again, turning well and releasing Willock, who's got Anthony Gordon outside him. Senesi's got to be careful here. Gordon hurdles over him. This is a chance for Newcastle. Gordon into the penalty area, pulls it back, but cleared away by Tavernier, who was covering back. That's Newcastle's most exciting attack in some time. 0-0 it remains here on 5 Live.
Yes, Senesi come flying out this left-hand side, and he was trying to take everything, regardless if he got the ball, but Gordon was too wide, hurdled over and puts a good ball into the box, and it's Tavernier that just sweeps that cross up before Sean Longstaff strides onto it and hits it towards the back of the net.
So we've got just over 6 minutes of normal time to go until the break. 0-0. Here's Joe Willock inside the penalty area that Newcastle are attacking. Turns 180 degrees back at himself, gives it to Anthony Gordon. This is still inside the penalty area. Gordon hits the ground. The referee says corner. Corner to Newcastle on the left-hand side.
Yes, he really did hit the deck, Andy Gordon, pretty quick. But there was no wrongdoing. He gets up, no complaints. Good tackle by Max Aarons. Puts it out for a corner. It's Kieran Trippier, the set-piece specialist, Newcastle's set-piece specialist. Just wanders over, taking this thing out of the game, just taking his time to spot this ball and put this into the Bournemouth area.
So pretty much everyone forward for Newcastle, definitely everyone back for Bournemouth. Here it comes, right-footed, in-swinger from Trippier, comes on the edge of the area to Ritchie against his own club, drills it back in, too many bodies in the way, don't think it was going on target anyway from Matt Ritchie, and a chance in the Bournemouth break as Cook puts it in front to Tavernier. Newcastle scrambling to get back, Tavernier switches it, looking for Kluivert, sprints to keep the ball in play on the right-hand side. Newcastle worked really hard there to make sure that wouldn't be a proper counter-attack. Aarons, crossfield pass that's just behind Lloyd Kelly, 10 yards outside the Newcastle penalty area, and he's got to retreat back to the halfway line.
Yeah, you said that was a pass by Max Aarons. I think he was actually trying to cross it. His left foot just wasn't that great, but luckily it finds Lloyd Kelly on the right-hand side, and all of a sudden Newcastle are sitting in a low block and Bournemouth are in control. Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0 in the Premier League.
Aarons takes on Trippier in the left-back position, gets around him, swings it in towards Solanke. Lascelles was the bodyguard there and manages to clear it away. Then a clever little backheel volley by Cook. Picks out Christie. Semenyo's in here, tries to control it and fails. And the ball pops up into the arms of Nick Pope. What a chance that. Semenyo's had a few chances today.
Yes, he has indeed. And Ryan Christie, brilliant swept ball with his left foot. And Semenyo just breaks that offside trap. But his touch lets him down. How many good positions are Bournemouth going to get in this game and not make them count?
If he controls that, it's 1-0 to Bournemouth surely. He had the goal at his mercy. Led off for Newcastle, who've used up a few of their 9 lives already in the 41 minutes we've had at the Vitality.
Yeah, they just don't seem to be able to get going this evening. They seem a little bit lacklustre. They're looking for that spark. But the question is, who is it going to come from?
0-0 for now. Bournemouth have only had one scoreless game this season. That was when Chelsea came here in mid-September. Both games between these sides, home and away, finished as a draw last season. 1-1 here, 1-1 at St James's Park. Aarons plays it forward looking for Solanke. Short sleeves on the gloves. Scher comes out. Solanke tries to go past him. Scher stands tall. Ball goes out for a throw into Bournemouth on the right-hand side. Aarons trots forward from right back to take it.
You say that about a draw. I just wonder if you offered that to Antonio Iraola, would he take that now, or would he fancy his chance of 3 points here?
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, his team are playing well, they're creating chances. I think he would say, hang on, ask me again at half-time sort of thing. You know, I think he'd stay on the fence.
Same question to Eddie Howe.
Yeah. This is Semenyo on the far side. Bournemouth switched the side of their wingers, and for a moment Newcastle did as well. Trippier went left and Hall went right, but Newcastle's defence is back where they would be. Willett gives it here to Lewis Hall. Summer signing from Chelsea, plays the 1-2 with Gordon. Newcastle are fortunate to hold on to possession there. This is Miley in the midfield. Forward to Anthony Gordon, 15 yards inside the opponent's territory. Gets his head up and sees that Matt Ritchie has space on the far side. Ritchie onto Trippier. Byline on the right, good defending by Kelly. And the repeat of the last touch, ricochet back off Trippier, which it did. So no corner for Newcastle. That's a goal kick for Bournemouth. Good defending by Kelly.
Yes, and both players having a little laugh about it there, Trippier and Kelly, as they retreat back into their positions. And the referee was actually wrong, because that was a corner. Trippier kicks it onto Kelly, goes back onto Trippier and back onto Kelly, equally the corner. He didn't see that, and it's a goal kick for Bournemouth.
Newcastle unbeaten in the Premier League for the last 2.5 months. Unbeaten in the last 7 Premier League games. 0-0 for the moment here on the south coast on 5 Live. Solanke controls and then just crumples in a heap on the floor. That was unusual. There was no defender around him. He controlled the ball and he's just gone flat as a pancake. So he's hurt something here.
Yeah, I think it could be a hip flexor thigh issue. He just chests that ball down out of the sky. It just drops 2 or 3 yards in front of him, and he goes to step to get it, loses his footing on the wet slippy turf, and it looks like he's just tweaked his hip, or his hip flexor. Yeah, he looks in quite a bit of bother, but again, injuries to key players. Philip Billing already in the stand. Kiefer Moore in the stand. The last thing Bournemouth need is Dominic Solanke off the pitch.
Dominic Solanke, their top goal scorer this season, signed by Eddie Howe, the opposition coach today. Most expensive forward that Howe ever signed during his time at Bournemouth. And the studs just gave away underneath him, which forced his leg to repel away backwards much quicker than he thought it was going to, and then his weight was going forward, and he's managed to hurt himself here, Dominic Solanke, and there was obvious concern for Bournemouth on the cusp of half-time, and we're 5 seconds away from finding out what's going to be added on for stoppages. And Johnny Areola might be hoping that they might get through to half-time and make the full assessment then, but it doesn't look good for Solanke, and there are going to be 6 minutes to be added on here for stoppages. He's back up on his feet.
Yeah, he's rubbing that right, the top of his leg at the front. He's just walking off gingerly with the physio. And I suppose from a Bournemouth point of view, even if he doesn't get back on the field of play in the end of this first half, you give him through half-time to just assess, try and patch him up and keep him out there.
6 points from their 11 games so far for Bournemouth. Second worst start to any league season in the club's history. And now their top scorer is nursing an injury off the field of play, but Areola hopeful that he might be able to get back on and at least test it. Trippier's possession for Newcastle, game back underway. Bournemouth temporarily down to 10. Lewis Hall has possession on the left-hand side. Halfway line as Newcastle come forward. Back in field to Fabian Schär. If you're just joining our coverage, injury problems continuing for Newcastle with Miguel Almiron having to be replaced, injured in this first half, and Matt Ritchie coming on in his place. Anthony Gordon has it on the left. Infield to Lewis Miley, the 17-year-old who's making his first Premier League start. Solanke comes back on and he jogs back on, so hopefully he's okay. And that was just a scare he gave himself rather than anything too serious.
Yeah, it's probably one of those ones where you don't want to go and sit down for 15 minutes and let it cool down. You want to keep it going, keep it warm. A little muscle injury like that, but looks like he's okay, back in the thick of it. Looks quite comfortable.
And Miley hustles in the midfield there, looked like he was going to lose the ball, but he did well to hold on to it. That's a good ball. Hall infield to Joe Willock. Now a crossfield pass. Matt Ritchie in the penalty area, tried to pull it back with Sean Longstaff, and too close to Lloyd Kelly, I think, who cleared away. Trippier tries to send it back into the mix, but Senesi is well positioned and he clears it up towards Solanke. Here's a test for his hip. And he's hobbling a little bit as he tried to control there, but he is continuing for now. Newcastle regain possession. Long ball played forward by Ritchie towards the edge of the Bournemouth penalty area. Sabani was backtracking and Kelly will help it back to the goalkeeper, Neto.
Yeah, as we take into the 47th minute of 6 extra minutes, I think both managers would be happy to shake hands and get in for half-time at this rate, because both have injury concerns, both look fatigued, but the game ticks on.
Bournemouth have never had a home win against Newcastle in the Premier League, and their only home league win in any division against today's opponents was all the way back in 1989, back when Harry Redknapp was the Bournemouth manager, in what was then called Division 2. As Lloyd Kelly has possession on the left-hand side, he gives it infield to Senesi, now to Lewis Cook. Newcastle playing within themselves. So often we see a high-press from Eddie Howe's team, not today. They've been holding that sort of flat 5 line in the midfield and waiting for their opponents to come over the halfway line. Willock's touch brings him away from Zabani, but brings him too close to Cook. Cook will send it ahead of Semenyo, who's going to be beaten by the byline as the ball goes out of play for Newcastle goal kick. Still 0-0.
Yeah, it's one of those for Newcastle, conserving energy away in Dortmund, Germany, midweek. Long flight, difficult game, injury hit squad, just need to hang in there. Can't always be 100 miles an hour, can't always be on the front foot, need to navigate your way through a Premier League season as well as balancing a Champions League campaign as well. It's difficult and it's different for Newcastle.
Pope's clearance right-footed from the edge of his 6-yard box. Joe Linton wins the flick-on header, but straight to Max Aarons. Semenyo right up against the touchline was unable to control, and that goes out in front of the dugouts for a throw into Newcastle.
That was very generous because he shinned out of play, didn't he?
I was actually going to say more critical tones of him there, but I thought he was right up against the touchline. That was the one mitigating circumstance, I think. But
well, I saw the wry smile on your face.
It wasn't as costly as his miscontrol in the penalty area about 10 minutes ago that really should have given Bournemouth the lead. Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0. Bournemouth, who've conceded a lot of goals this season. Only Sheffield United have conceded more coming into today's games, and Ariola, he's got to be pleased with the performance here, but like so many other Bournemouth games, can the performance be turned into a result? A draw here brings them out of the bottom three today.
Yeah, that's the difference between the Premier League and the Championship. Scoring goals. I think when you look at it, the law of averages, you can have 4 or 5 chances in the Championship, miss them and still win. In the Premier League, you want to get 2 or 3, and they've had them already this afternoon. Can they fashion a few more?
Gordon tried to do a trick around Max Aarons, and Max Aarons wasn't buying it, and he's one possession back for his team. Tavernier will come forward on the left wing for Bournemouth. Clive Richards drops into what he hopes is a bit of space, but Longstaff tracks him. Bournemouth have it with Zabani, and now back to it. All began with Aarons on the right hand side. His ball towards the penalty area, looking for Ryan Christie. Fabian Schär gets there first, and no messing around, boots it away up onto the roof of the stand again. And that is a throw into Bournemouth midway into the Newcastle half down the right hand side. 0-0 on 5 Live between Bournemouth and Newcastle.
Newcastle sitting in what is effectively a low block now. They look a little bit sluggish, don't really want to get out. I think they're ready for half time.
We're set to 6 minutes of stoppages. We've got 5 minutes 45 seconds, so this could be the last chance of the opening period. Aarons retreats though, gives it back to Zabani, back in field again to the Argentinian Marcus Senesi. Kelly will bring it forward. Left-footed attempted pass is blocked down by Longstaff over there on the ball. Ricochets out, and that's a throw in, and surely that's got to be half-time now. But we play on.
All of a sudden the game's just died of any energy, any life.
So if you're just joining our coverage, best chances of the game are for Bournemouth. Semenyo's had 3 opportunities. Nick Pope has made at least 3 decent saves, and there goes the whistle for the break. So Antonio Iriola, good performance, but haven't been able to make it count, and Newcastle, whose injury woes just continue and continue, are sort of hanging on in here at the moment of the vitality. Glenn Murray.
Yes, they are. I think Antonio Iriola will be frustrated that his team haven't hit the back of the net yet. But on the other hand, I think Eddie Howe will be very happy of his team's character so far, hanging in this. Still 0-0 here on the South Coast.
Nick Pope, the busier goalkeeper. Bournemouth 0, Newcastle United 0. Thanks very much, Mark. Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0. There has been one change in personnel over half-time. It's at the back for Newcastle. Lewis Hall, who's been playing at left-back, has been replaced by Tino Livramento. Livramento is normally a right-back, played right-wing in Dortmund in the Champions League in midweek. But he has come on to play left-back. I wondered if Trippier would move across to the left, but no, Livramento starting this second half at left-back for Newcastle, Glenn.
Yeah, interesting switch. I just wonder if it's another slight injury, because Lewis Hall didn't do anything wrong. He didn't look like he was struggling at all either. But like for like, and Livramento's got good legs. He'll get up the field and he'll support the forward players and try and stretch the play when he can.
He turns 21 tomorrow, Tino Livramento. He's been very impressive in what we've seen of him so far. Yet to start a league game for Newcastle, but he's going to get the second half here as Scher's clearance gives possession away, but then Scher does well to bravely stoop in with his head and win it back again, and he's been kicked around the head, and he's picked up a free kick for his troubles there.
Yeah, it just comes in on Solanke's blind side, who's got his eyes on the ball, dangles the leg out, just catches Fabian Schär, nothing untoward, free kick, right decision.
So Newcastle, if it was to stay a draw here, would move level on points with Manchester United. They would go ahead of Erik ten Hag's team on goal difference for now. But if they could get a win here in the South Coast, Eddie Howe's team could also go ahead of Aston Villa, ahead of them playing tomorrow. Trippier rolls it back to Pope, but it's too short. Oh, that's a mistake. Pope tried to trip Solanke there, but actually missed him. He went for like a rugby tackle, I think, and missed him, but Solanke's touch was so firm that the ball goes out of play anyway. That's another big chance for Bournemouth, and of all people, it's Kieran Trippier's mistake.
Yes, it is, and Dominic Solanke gets up the ball. He just doesn't quite get enough purchase on the ball to get it around. Pope has to have another bite at it, and that bite's too heavy. rules out of play, and another chance goes begging for Bournemouth. Good start to the second half, just like they started the first.
So, goal kick for a much relieved Nick Pope away to our right hand side. Only twice this season before today have any of Newcastle's Premier League games been level at half time. The matches against Brentford and then last weekend against Arsenal were both level. And Newcastle went on to win both of those games by 1-0 scorelines in the second period. So let's see if they can do that again. Trippier with a much firmer back pass this time gets it all the way through to Nick Pope. So here's the teams. Neto back in the Bournemouth side today, back as captain. One of 5 changes from the 6-1 defeat at Manchester City last weekend. Playing behind a flat back 4, Max Aarons, Marco Senesi, Zabani and Lloyd Kelly. Neto just had to sprint out there out of Longstaff after a bit of a soft back pass from Kelly. Kelly's second attempt at the clearance comes off Matt Ritchie and goes out for a Bournemouth throw. In the midfield, Lewis, Cook and Ryan Christie and Marcus Tavernier, and then Semenyo, Justin Kluivert and Dominic Solanke, who has been able to come out and start this second half despite picking up what looked to be a hip injury in the closing stages of the opening period. 0-0 on the south coast. Kelly's throw up towards Solanke, comfortably beaten in the air by Lascelles. Joe Linton, who's leading the attack for Newcastle, tries to control it, but it's taken away from him. It's scooped up onto the arm of Lascelles from right in front of him. I think the proximity will play a factor there. He didn't flinch, he didn't move his shoulder, it just sort of came off the t-shirt line, and that's not a free kick. It's a throw into Bournemouth on the left hand side. The Newcastle team, Nick Pope the goalkeeper. It's now Trippier right back, Lascelles share in the middle, Livramento left back. In midfield, Sean Longstaff, Lewis Miley, who's starting his first Premier League game of his career. Joe Linton has moved forward to lead the attack. Joe Willock, Matt Ritchie, who came on for Almiron, and Anthony Gordon on the left wing. 0-0. Bournemouth desperately in need of a victory. Don't want to be sucked in too deep in that relegation zone this early in the season. Kelly's clearance away comes off Ritchie again. Matt Ritchie making a rare appearance in the Premier League. Over the course of Eddie Howe's tenure at Newcastle, he's been very peripheral, but against his old team here, he was the one brought on early today. Kelly prepares to take the throw. This is halfway line. Gives it short to Tavernier. Back to Lloyd Kelly again. And Newcastle a little bit more pressing now. Not full-out gegenpress, but pushing up a bit more to put more pressure on the Bournemouth defence in this second period compared to the first. Yeah, just a little bit higher. I'm sure that's something that Eddie Howe's highlighted at half-time, how he didn't want them sitting back and inviting that pressure, because so far this afternoon there's been a number of Bournemouth chances and they should be in front really if it wasn't for some poor touches, poor finishing, and I think Areola will be looking to try and make amends this second half. Yeah, we've seen so often down through the years teams who are struggling towards the bottom of the table, if they don't take their chances, so often they end up regretting it. Tavernier has possession for Bournemouth down the left hand side. That's a nice ball, low to the feet of Kluivert, allowed to turn, tried to slip it into the penalty area. He was looking for Solanke. Trippier intercepted but then took too long, and Tavernier was able to get it back off him. Aarons crosses from the right hand side and Fabian Schär puts it out for a throw, and that's roused the Bournemouth fans again now. They've got to their feet, they've got loud again, but then Willock wins the ball in the midfield away from Cook. He runs into trouble. It's here, it's all over the place at the moment. Possession, high turnover. Tavernier dummies a shot, drops his shoulder into the penalty area, pulls it back. Semenyo, right-footed shot comes off Livramento, and Newcastle breathe again and a chance to clear away. Good pass. Joe Willock to Anthony Gordon, storming towards the Bournemouth penalty area away to our right-hand side. Cuts in along the edge of the box. Needs some support here. Sabani's held him up well. Gordon holds on to it. Gets it to Matt Ritchie on the right-hand side. Trippier bombing on down on the overlap as he does. Ritchie nearly gives it away on the edge of the box, but holds on to possession, and Newcastle is still on the attack here. 5 live for the BBC at the Vitality. This is Longstaff being ushered towards the corner flag on the right-hand side. He goes down a bit easy for my liking there, and the officials weren't buying it either, and Bournemouth are able to clear the ball away.
Yes, don't you just love how a game of football's always in flux. Sometimes it can just be passive, then all of a sudden it springs into life. It wasn't good play, there's a lot of sloppy play from both teams, but all of a sudden it was end to end for a passage of play there. Newcastle here just got fooled the Bournemouth half and just trying to break down this Bournemouth defence now.
This is Tino Livramento Left-hand side for Newcastle, gives it to Joe Willock, who Newcastle fans are pleased to see that he's been able to get over those injuries that kept him out of the team for the opening months of the season. A sign that the players do come back off that list, and there's so many of them at the moment. Isak, Wilson, Murphy, Byrne, Botman, Barnes, Anderson, Target, Tonali, who's suspended, Bruno Guimaraes, who's suspended today. Eddie Howe missing so many, but at least Willock is back. Here is Lascelles, centre circle, short to Trippier, now to Ritchie on the right wing. He's played a lovely ball in front of Longstaff here. The defender is Cook. Longstaff held up just outside the penalty area. Still his possession though, gives it short to Joe Linton. Was aware that Clivert was sprinting in behind him, and Joe Linton did well to just shimmy away from that. This is Lewis Miley, nothing fancy from him, gives it calmly back to Lascelles, but just seems to be a better attitude about Newcastle in this second half.
Yeah, without doubt, and see Joe Linton just dropping into almost that number 10, and it's Longstaff that he's pushing into almost a centre forward position, and he, out of any Newcastle player, looks like he could be the one to just ghost in and possibly break the deadlock.
Joe Linton with the foul on Senesi there, sliding through the back of him. Free kick to Bournemouth near the halfway line. Bournemouth hoping to move out of the relegation zone here. As things stand, they would be. They'd move ahead of Luton Town, who lost at Old Trafford earlier on today.
And as you can hear, the belief around the vitality is starting to grow. The home supporters fancy this one.
Bournemouth at possession, halfway line. Zabani towards Semenyo, bounced up onto his stomach. Newcastle thought it went out of play. Flag isn't raised though. Semenyo takes on Livramento, and Livramento is just a wonderful tackler one-on-one. Tackles first Semenyo, and then he tackles Christie, and the ball goes out for a Bournemouth throw.
Yeah, he's a very good young talent, Livramento, obviously. Came from Southampton, so he knows this area well. Injured, Newcastle took a punt on him, but very educated punt, because he's going to turn into a fantastic Premier League fullback.
Yeah, he is brilliant, isn't he, Livramento? This is Kelly, 20 yards inside his own half. Newcastle this time drop back and don't press too much.
Yeah, I'm just thinking as I've got my hand out, and it's getting a little bit cold, a little bit nippy this evening. It feels like it could be the first real game that I've attended where the nip's in the air, and I just look across the way and I can see the Newcastle fan with no shirt on.
Yeah, well, we've not quite reached thermals weather yet, but it's coming, isn't it? I think after the international break we'll all be getting the heavy coat out of the cupboard. Not Newcastle fans, of course, who will be bare-chested as they do. And this is Semenyo 10 yards outside the penalty area that Bournemouth attack, and increasingly this is becoming a staring match. Bournemouth who've had the better chances, Newcastle who've been in the better form. Who's going to break the deadlock here? Will the deadlock be broken at all? And the vitality this evening, 0-0. We played 10 minutes in the second half. Commentaries at Liverpool and Chelsea to come tomorrow on 5 Live in the Premier League. That's a poor ball. Christie giving it straight away to Trippier. Newcastle regain possession around the edge of their own penalty area, and Longstaff brings it out from the back.
When we mention Newcastle's list of injuries and suspensions, I think I suppose you look at the centre forwards, and yes, they're a massive miss, but I also think that Bruno in the centre of the park, just getting his foot on the ball and dictating play when needed, he's been missed this evening. He'll be welcome back next week.
Yeah, the reason he misses is because last weekend he got his 5th yellow card in the Premier League this season, so that's why he's absent today, but he will be back for the next league game after the international break when Newcastle host Chelsea. This is Senesi, Marcus Senesi at the back for Bournemouth, gives it to Lloyd Kelly, left-hand side, up to Ryan Christie, comes in field of Matt Ritchie and gives it back to Senesi again.
I do like Senesi on the ball. He does try and make things happen. He tries to step in when the option's available. He tries to find always a forward pass or a penetrative pass. I think he's a good footballing centre-back.
Bournemouth, who have only had one win from their 11 Premier League games so far this season. That's good work by Gordon. He's got on the end of a 1-2 here, and he's only got Senesi between him and the penalty area, but Lewis Cook has worked really hard to get back and put pressure on Gordon. I thought Gordon was going to leave him for dust there, but that is pure grit and determination from Lewis Cook, who then, having got back, commits a foul on Gordon, and he'll get a yellow card for that. But his work rate to get back in the first place is to be admired. That's a yellow card though for Lewis Cook, and a free kick to Newcastle.
Yes, Chris Kavanagh was quick to his pocket there, and I don't think it is a yellow card. I think the hard work's done, and Anthony Gordon's going backwards towards his own goal. I think it's more clumsy than anything. I think he treads on the back of his heel. It's not an attempted play of the ball. And to brandish a yellow card there, I think punishment enough is a free kick in the position where it's at, with Trippier standing over it.
He's only just back from suspension, Lewis Cook. He was sent off in the defeat to Wolves here 3 weeks ago. Back in the team today. That's the first yellow card of this match. Free kick in a dangerous position for Newcastle, and they have gone forward to crowd around the penalty spot and await Kieran Trippier's delivery. Trippier, whose stats this season in terms of creating chances more than any other Premier League player this campaign, and you would fancy him to put this into an awkward spot for the Bournemouth defence. It's out by the sideline, left-hand side. Here it comes. In-swinger, bounces in front of Neto. Reaction save. It came off his knee, I think. And it's cleared away for Bournemouth. That was a devilish delivery from Kieran Trippier.
Well, leading into that free kick, you bigged Kieran Trippier up, and boy did he produce, because that was a wicked in-swinging cross that no one really gets anything on, and it just dips down, and Neto does well to hold his ground, because there's always that, I suppose, concern that a striker or even a defender's just going to get a nick on it. He holds his ground, gets low, stops the ball going in. Brilliant delivery though from Kieran Trippier, absolutely outstanding.
It's a real sort of Russian roulette for goalkeepers in that situation, because it's coming in, and as you say, Glenn, any touch at all, they'll be left looking like the statuesque, but they've got to hold their ground, because if no one gets a touch, it's going straight at them. And Neto did well there, but make no mistake, it hit him rather than he made a reaction to get the save.
Yeah, but he was in the right line. It takes nerves to hold that position, especially when bodies are flashing across that ball, and if they do get a touch, it's more than likely going to beat you into the back of the net. So he held, he showed nerve, and he made the right choice.
Newcastle fans making a lot of the noise at the moment of the vitality. Lascelles brings it out from the back for Newcastle. Trippier right-footed to the feet of Matt Ritchie. Kelly has come to put pressure on him. It's returned back to Trippier, and then a right-footed clearance away by Lascelles. Hasn't quite cleared the lines for Newcastle. Good work by Senesi in the midfield. Now, this is Christie. Forward to the edge of the penalty area. Semenyo trying to bring it with him. It's fallen for Solanke! It's in! Bournemouth take the lead against Newcastle! Dominic Solanke! He spurned the chance just like that in the first half. He wasn't going to let it by again. It's his 6th goal of the season, and the man who was signed for Bournemouth by Eddie Howe puts Bournemouth in front against Eddie Howe's Newcastle. Bournemouth 1, Newcastle United 0, and this is going to really open the game up now.
Yes, it is indeed, and it's lucky how the ball gets through. It's a tackling back from Willett that puts it into Solanke's path. He takes on his left foot, hits it back across on his right foot, just to Pope's right-hand side. Pope's a little bit statuesque as I see that goal ran back, but it's fortunate how it lands. Would question Bournemouth though, how many opportunities is it going to take to break the deadlock, and eventually it's their main man, Dominic Solanke, who does it. Bournemouth 1, Newcastle 0. Will Eddie Howe's side react?
He scored against Wolves and Brighton and Brentford and West Ham in the Premier League this season, and now he has scored against Newcastle United. Solanke, who was an injury concern ahead of half-time, and how pleased Bournemouth are that he's been able to continue, because when given the big opportunity there, he's given his team a priceless lead here, and it is going to be intriguing to see if Bournemouth can hang on. This has not been Newcastle at their best tonight, not by any stretch of the imagination. They look like a team that has had a lot of games lately, and they look like a team that's missing a lot of players. New energy for Bournemouth though, as Christie comes forward, flashes it into the penalty area. Livramento backtracking, was able to head away, and then it's going to fall down for Joe Willock here, who with the help of Joe Linton is still inside his own final third. New hunger about Bournemouth now, but can they keep it going? And can Newcastle find a second wind now as Joe Linton is fouled, and a free kick to the visitors near the halfway line? Glenn Murray.
Yes, without doubt they need a reaction now, Eddie Howe's men, and I'm sure there's a few out there that it'll hurt more than others. The manager, assistant manager, Matty Ritchie especially, who've had time at Bournemouth. All of a sudden, Bournemouth, they look like they've got a spring in their step. It's going to be hard to break them down.
Newcastle Newcastle trying to counter here. It's Trippier in around the back of Tavernier. Good covering by Lloyd Kelly back behind him, and eventually it pops back towards the Brazilian goalkeeper Neto. Now, obviously Newcastle fans won't be liking that goal, but for the Bournemouth supporters, and I would dare say for any neutrals watching, this really enlivens the game now. This puts a factor. It gives Bournemouth something to defend. It gives them a satisfaction that their hard work today has been rewarded, and crucially it gives Newcastle something to chase now. Livramento, another good tackle. He's so good one-on-one, and he gets it off Solanke there, but Newcastle at the moment are pinned back in. They try to break out with Willock. That's a good ball over the halfway line. It's Livramento. I had to check myself there. How could that be Livramento? He had a tackle in his own penalty area a moment ago, but he's given it to Gordon. Shoots straight at the goalkeeper. That was not a great effort from Anthony Gordon, and a comfortable save. Bournemouth 1, Newcastle 0.
Yes, Newcastle spring up the pitch, and Anthony Gordon gets it, edge of the area, gets it out of his feet, and I understand why he's hit it, but the covering defender Lloyd Kelly's sprinting over to block the shot, and it's Longstaff who's breaking his neck to get up alongside. If he just holds the ball for a second longer, he can play his teammate on. He doesn't, he shoots. It's disappointing. Bournemouth let off.
Break in play. Max Aarons, the right back for Bournemouth, needs a bit of treatment. His cousin Rolando Aarons began his career at Newcastle. There's a connection there. He is waiting for the physio to come on, and of course Newcastle are doing the old come out. Any chance you can just leave the field of play and get this treatment? And of course that won't happen, and Bournemouth players are coming across for a drink and a little chat with Anthony Iraola. There is no way Bournemouth will want to let this lead slip. At home, in front, against Newcastle. What an opportunity here, with over a quarter of the game remaining. Can Bournemouth hang on? Aarons still down, still receiving treatment. The goal from Dominic Solanke, separating the teams of the vitality. Newcastle, who've offered so little in attack tonight. There was that Lascelles header when he was offside, but you know, there's been very few nervous moments for Neto, the goalkeeper for Bournemouth.
Yeah, I suppose they've been sluggish. They look like they've played in Europe midweek, and just when that goal goes in there, I look around the Newcastle players, their shoulders drop slightly, and I just wonder if they've got it in them to come back. But if you want to stay in the higher echelons of the Premier League, these are the nights you need somebody, you need something, you need a moment of magic. Who's going to come up with it?
Newcastle, who lost 3 of their opening 4 Premier League games this season, remember, they lost at Man City, they lost it to Liverpool, the game that Van Dijk was sent off in, and Darwin Núñez got the late goals, and then they lost after that away to Brighton, and people were wondering if the Newcastle fairy tale was petering out a little bit. Since then, Eddie Howe's team have been unbeaten in the Premier League. They had wins against Brentford and against Sheffield United. They beat City in the League Cup. They beat Burnley. They beat Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. They beat Palace. They beat Manchester United in the League Cup. They beat Arsenal last weekend. This would be a big setback if Eddie Howe's team were to lose here.
Yes, and Eddie Howe, just in that moment there, has rolled the dice. He's taken Lewis Miley off the youngster, and he's brought another youngster on, more forward thinking. Ben Parkinson is on the field for his Premier League debut.
Yeah, his senior debut. He hasn't played any first team football at all for Newcastle, so Ben Parkinson gets his chance here. Further evidence of the lack of options available to Eddie Howe, that he's bringing on players who haven't played for the first team before. Local lad to Newcastle, Ben Parkinson, born in Durham, came through the youth system from the age of 7. He'll have been waiting all his life for this moment. He gets to play for Newcastle in the Premier League, but not ideal circumstances for a young kid to be coming into.
Well, it depends which way you look at it, because the way I look at it, he's got the chance to make himself a hero here tonight.
This is one of those opportunities that could open doors. As down goes Longstaff, challenged by a much smaller frame of Clivert, and Bournemouth think that Longstaff went down a bit easy there. In reaction to the Newcastle changes, Antonio Iraola is going to make at least a double swap of his own. There's a lot of activity taking place down in the home side's technical area. This is 5 Live for the BBC. 66 minutes played. Bournemouth 1, Newcastle United 0. Solanke's goal the difference. Max Aarons, who's receiving treatment, is not going to be able to come back on. So the introduction of Adam Smith, he'll make his 350th appearance for Bournemouth. He will come on to play in defence in place of Max Aarons. And the other change is going to be Luis Sinisterra, the recruit from Leeds, the Colombian, who did score that goal that Bournemouth got against Manchester City while they conceded 6 last weekend. And he did get that first goal for the club, and Sinisterra is going to come on and he will replace Justin Kluivert. So no goal for Justin Kluivert against the team that his dad Patrick used to play for in the past. But fresh legs will come on it. And Sinisterra, we know from with Leeds, and again that was tricky because it was a team on their way down, but he did look a bright spark at Elland Road last season. It'll be interesting to see what he can do here.
Yeah, he did, and I'm sure he'll be looking to try and be a positive effect on the game this afternoon, because I can't help but feel that Justin Kluivert hasn't quite done himself any justice today. He wasn't really in the game, had one shot from far out. I'm not sure it was the right option at that time, and it's a change that I'm not surprised Andoni Iraola has made.
Adam Smith's first touch was to boot the ball down into the concourse. There's a little gangway which leads from the supporters into where they get their half-time refreshments, and his clearance went right through that gap, and a new ball has been required. Newcastle of possession, goal down away from home in the Premier League. Cher, Solanke leaning into it. Cher has to release it to Lascelles on his right hand side. Newcastle wearing the green shirts, white socks, playing left to right as we look down. Ink black skies overhead, this 5:30 kickoff on 5 Live. Cher has it 10 yards outside his own penalty area. Newcastle fans wondering where would an equaliser come from without the likes of Wilson and Isak and Almiron. All the regular goal scorers aren't involved. Here is Gordon. Longstaff to Joe Linton on the left hand side of the midfield. Gets to within 10 yards of the penalty area, into Gordon, who wasn't ready to receive that and wasn't able to control. Down goes Solanke. Referee says that's no foul on him by Cher. Smith has picked up possession for Bournemouth, and Longstaff challenges, hurt himself in doing so. Longstaff slides in and has hurt himself here as the ball goes out of play. He fell awkward as he slid across. He fell awkwardly there, and this could be another injury problem for Eddie Howe.
Yeah, it looks like he's in a world of pain there, Longstaff. It looked like a very awkward fall, and you can see him on our little monitor. He's screaming, and he's not the type to go down. And we just get a little shot of Eddie Howe, who puts his head in his hands as if not another one. But more importantly, Sean Longstaff is really hurt here. He's pulled his shirt up over his face and he's grimacing.
The reaction of the player the moment it happened, and you can always tell, because often if players are rolling around a lot and they look in distress, you think, well, the fact that they're rolling shows they're not in too much pain. He in pain, anguish, totally motionless.
Well, I think it's a type of person as well, and you know that he's quite an honest lad, humble young man. You get to know them through interviews and what they do, the way they play, and he's not one just to stay down for no reason. But he's up. The physios are just having a look. I think it's his right ankle that he looks very uncomfortable with. Hopefully, from a Newcastle point of view, this isn't another injury, because it is becoming ridiculous now for them.
He is sitting up, Sean Longstaff, but he is grimacing as the medical staff work on that ankle on his right foot. He's going to try and stand on it here, and this will give the indication if he's going to be able to continue. But he certainly, and then no opponent near him there. He'd slid in, he'd made the challenge, and then for whatever way just twisted his ankle as he went down. And the instant reaction suggested he'd really hurt himself there, but maybe, just maybe, it was the sting of it rather than anything else. Did his studs get caught on the turf or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he rolled his ankle, but it was actually Adam Smith who kicked the ball off him that caused the It was very unusual.
So a dangling ankle that didn't have any tension on it, maybe.
Well, he's back out there though.
Back out, okay. Well, that is very good to see, because for a moment there it looked like he had a big problem. Sean Longstaff. 1-0 to Bournemouth. Still time for Newcastle Tavernier shoots, good shot, good save. Pope to his right hand side, that was on target. Nick Pope pushes it out for a corner. Second goal for Bournemouth there, and Newcastle could be done and dusted.
Yeah, Sinistera plays it into Tavernier's feet on his left foot. He just thinks, you know what, I'm going to have a thump, and boy does he thump it right towards Pope's top right hand corner. The Newcastle goalkeeper's equal to it again. He has been outstanding this evening.
Corner to the home side. Lewis Cook prepares to take it. 72 minutes on the clock. Here it comes, right-footed, in swinging towards the front post, headed down, and it's in! Another goal for Solanke! Luis Sinistera at the front post got it goal-bound. It was saved on the line, but following up was Dominic Solanke for his second goal of the game. And surely Bournemouth aren't going to let this slip. Bournemouth 2, Newcastle United 0. Dominic Solanke again.
Dominic Solanke on the spot. He was in the perfect situation. Sinistera's first to the ball, across the front post. He gets a glancing header on it. Comes off the foot of Nick Pope's goal. Comes off, I think it's the young man, Ben Parkinson's thigh. And who's there to tuck it away? It's Dominic Solanke. He flicks his right boot up towards his hip and sort of Cruyff, I don't know how to describe it. He kind of scorpions it into the back of the net. Doesn't matter how he got there, it's about how and where it ended up, and it's in the back of Nick Pope's goal. And that's 2-0 to Bournemouth. There's just a VAR check, possible handball.
So VAR wants to sign off on it. It came in a crowded pack of bodies. It comes off the hip of a defender, and then Solanke. Maybe when Sinistera jumps, is there a suggestion? I don't think so. Not obvious in our viewings as to where this potential handball is, unless it's Sinistera's flick on. Comes back off the woodwork, hits, if anything, a defender before Solanke nips in to finish.
Well, I know one thing, it's a terrible angle.
It counts. Correct decision. No handball. 2 goals in 13 minutes for Dominic Solanke. Are heaping the pressure on Newcastle now. Bournemouth 2, Newcastle United 0. Who saw this coming?
Well, I did say at the start of the game, if there's one afternoon you want to play Newcastle, it's today. And when they've seen that team shoot without a recognised striker on for Newcastle, their tails will have been up, they'll have fancied their chances. And so far, it's been a perfect performance from Bournemouth. Looking like 2 wins on the spin. How a season can change.
Yes, this could be a big turning point for Bournemouth, if they can hang on, of course. And how many times this season have we seen late dramas and late turnarounds? So there is no way this is over yet. There's over a quarter of an hour of normal time to play. 5 live from the BBC and the Vitality. Free kick Newcastle, floated in by Trippier, and the Celts got up well, but couldn't get clean purchase on it. It comes off the top of his head and goes out for a goal kick to Bournemouth, and their fans are making the noise behind that goal that Neto guards away to our right hand side. It's not been a happy return to these parts for Eddie Howe.
No, it certainly hasn't. But you know what? It's the reaction I expect from the Newcastle faithful in full voice. They support their team wherever they go. Longest journey of the year, of the season, and they've packed it out. Is it going to be a disappointing one?
Noteworthy for Dominic Solanke, it is only the second time in his Premier League career that he has scored multiple goals in one game. He's done it lots of the Championship, of course, but he did it once against Leicester in the behind closed doors summer of 2020, and he's done it here today against Newcastle. He's on a hat-trick now, Solanke, as Newcastle have possession on the halfway line with Matt Ritchie into Joe Linton. Tried to return it to Ritchie. Newcastle nearly lost the ball. Longstaff, who's recovered from that knock to his ankle, plays it out to Livramento on the right hand side. Back infield to Longstaff again. I mean, if you had sat down with the squad of Newcastle players at the start of the season, you never would have picked this 11 that's currently on the pitch to play together. It has very much been needs must for Eddie Howe. Joelinton gives it back to Lascelles under pressure from Christie, and they nearly lose it. Scher, though, turns Solanke well and now powers forward. Good run this by Fabian Scher. Christie got back. It's going to fall to Longstaff, and he's put it over the top. That's Newcastle's best chance in a long time. He's in the penalty area. He's maybe 15 yards out. He goes left-footed and he puts it too high, Longstaff.
A brilliant mazy run from Fabian Schär, takes it right from the centre-back position onto the edge of the 18-yard box, plays it to his right-hand side to Sean Longstaff, who can only take on his left foot in all fairness. His weaker foot, he tries to curl it back across into that far top corner, gets a little bit too much purchase on the goal. Neto turns to his right-hand side and sees it sail inches over the bar.
Sean Longstaff, who's got 3 goals this season, scored against Crystal Palace a couple of games ago, scored against Sheffield United in September. First time he scored multiple Premier League goals in a campaign, and really might have done a bit better there. Evidence though that Newcastle are not completely out of this yet, and if they could get one back, it would make it a very nervy finish for Bournemouth. 2-0 Bournemouth lead for the moment, on their way out of the relegation zone as things stand. Bournemouth, who for so long looked caught adrift early on in the campaign, but there's always a chance. It is, as the old cliche says, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you can be slow in the first few miles. There's still a long way of this season to go.
Yeah, and that's one thing I will say about this Bournemouth group. They've run the course, they've been there before, they won't panic, they'll be comfortable being uncomfortable, and this last few weekends has proved that. Beat Burnley here, go to Manchester City, get beat 6-1, doesn't bother them. Play Newcastle 2-0 up with 12 minutes to go.
Ouattara's getting ready to come on. Dango Ouattara, the Burkina Faso player, who scored against Tottenham back in April. That was a late one, 95th minute. We'll give some fresh legs to Andoni Iraola's team. Trippier, who's now moved across to left back to allow Livramento play on the right hand side. Lascelles in the centre circle, gives it away to Cook. Newcastle look a bit rattled here. There's not they're a team who breed off confidence and momentum, and the body language at the moment, they don't look comfortable.
No, they don't. And Lewis Cook just won the ball in the middle of the park. They wanted to pass forward, he had to check back and pass it to Kelly in left back position, and he seemed so frustrated, but I don't know why. It's good game management. They just need to take this sting out of this game at the moment, Bournemouth. They don't need it to be frantic. Newcastle do.
I suppose it's not a scenario that Bournemouth have had a lot of experience in this season, holding on to leads late in games. Usually they're chasing things, and yeah, you're right, Glenn. Game management's so important. As Solanke, who of course wants a hat-trick, he'll charge on. Tavernier available outside him. This is left wing as Bournemouth come forward. Bournemouth 2, Newcastle United 0. 79 minutes in the big stadium clock. Bournemouth playing from right to left as we look down on the black and red stripes. Kelly gives it into Lewis Cook again. Cook one of 5 changes for Iraola today, and it's had its effect with this performance his team have put in. Wasted chances in the first half, but they've taken them in the second period. Here is Sinisterra, dribbling into the penalty area, hits the side netting. Power behind that shot. Boy, did he put the laces through it, and I don't know if Pope would have got there if it was into the bottom corner. And the 3-0, it really would have been all over.
Yes, he just jinks onto the edge of the 18-yard box and it opens up. He decides to have a shot, and most people go across the goalkeeper, but he doesn't. He goes for that near post, and it just kisses against the side netting. And Pope is extremely happy to see it just whiz past.
So Ouattara comes on. Antoine Semenyo is the player who makes way. He'll be relieved that Solanke has taken those 2 chances because he was wasteful earlier on. Semenyo, he departs with his team 2-0 in front, and Ouattara, who's now played in 7 of the last 8 Premier League games, comes on. Fresh legs at this stage is very good for the home side. Slotting in at left back, he might be going to a back 5 here. Bournemouth to try and hang on to the 2-goal lead. Solanke released by Tavernier, crosses low into the penalty area, chance to turn and shoot, and Sinisterra is denied. Good defending by Lascelles. It goes out for a corner. Sinisterra did everything right there. That was top quality from Lascelles.
Yes, it was indeed, because the striker did everything right. Solanke puts it in, he turns, it's behind him, turns on his right foot to the perfect touch, takes all the speed out of it, swivels, hits with his left foot, but Lascelles is equal to it.
It's been some story for Jamal Lascelles, who's been so peripheral since the arrival of Sven Botman, but given his chance in the team, he has stood up, and even in these tricky circumstances for Newcastle, he ensured they didn't get worse there. Bournemouth from the corner into the penalty area. Schär backpedaling, heads it away. Ritchie on the edge of the box tries to complete the clearance, but Newcastle can't get it out. Sinistero, who's been a box of tricks since coming on, he's all acrobatic leaps, but can't pick out a teammate, and Trippier allows the ball out of play, knowing that it'll be a throw into Newcastle on the left-hand side. He takes it quickly, no time to waste for the visitors. Slams the ball on Solanke, another Newcastle throw.
And you can just tell by the way that the Bournemouth players are pressing, they know how important this is. It's 10 minutes hard work and you go into an international break with a vital 3 points.
Bournemouth have never had a Premier League home win against Newcastle. Is today the day? Lascelles brings it out of the back for the visitors, who are now hoping for 2 late goals here. One would not be enough to try and get something here.
All of a sudden Newcastle look like they're playing a back three with Shah, Trippier on the left and Lascelles on the right, and Liveramento's almost playing on the forward line so high up.
The second goal is so important because Bournemouth have dropped a lot of points from winning positions this season. That's good work from Willock to get to the byline. Hangs in a cross which Zabani is able to win ahead to clear away. Livramento collects for Newcastle wearing green midway inside the opponent's half. Here comes Cher. Passes it in front to Trippier, has to cut back onto his favourite right boot. He's just outside the penalty area that Newcastle attack. Longstaff gives it back to Cher again. This is a chance for Willock to get into the penalty area on the left-hand side. Oh, he's ghosted through 2 defenders there to the byline. Joe Willock tried to catch the keeper out at his near post, but it's blocked away for a corner to Newcastle. That's much better from them. And by the way, we're hearing that you'll recall there was a VAR check in the aftermath of the second goal. It was checking whether Solanke had handled it. That's the word from the PGMOL. So it was whether Solanke had handled it, which I couldn't see how that would have been the case. So no surprise that that wasn't given. The goal has stood. Here comes the corner. Trippier in swinger, punched by Neto. Can't get it out of the penalty area. Christie is going to try and safely do so now. He's been put under pressure here by Matt Ritchie, and he turns and he twists, and he's done very well there, Christie, initially, but then he gave it away to Trippier. Bournemouth get it back again with Solanke, and he's got the support here of Sinistera, and a chance to counter-attack now. Bournemouth 2 goals ahead. The ball is pushed ahead of Ouattara, down the left-hand side. Lascelles has been clumsy there as he bundles into Sinistera, who's going nowhere really down the left wing. Didn't need to be so rash, Lascelles, and that might well be a yellow card for him. It's a free kick to Bournemouth, and it is a booking for the Newcastle United captain, Jamal Lascelles. We praised him earlier. That was not as good as it should have been from Lascelles. Blatant yellow card.
Yeah, as he was approaching that ball, I thought he was in control of the situation, but it's Dango just nips in there, gets in there first. Oh, and he does take everything as a Newcastle defender comes sliding across, and that is a welcome to the game.
Yes. So free kick to Bournemouth. Crossing position the left-hand side. They'll take their time over this with 5.5 minutes of normal time to go. This would be quite an eyebrow-raising scoreline in the Premier League if it stays like this. 2-0 to Bournemouth at home against high-flying Newcastle. Haven't lost in the Premier League for 2.5 months. Earlier on today, Wolves came from behind late on to beat Tottenham 2-1. Cook prepares to take the throw-in. The free kick on the left-hand side. What have you spotted, Glenn?
I just spotted a legend walking out there.
Oh,
Harry Redknapp.
Harry Redknapp, who was the only Bournemouth manager who has ever had a home league win against Newcastle in the past.
Teed that one up, didn't I?
You tee it up and I'll smash it out. Here comes the cross from Cook, and there was a one-man wall. It was Ritchie who did his job, and that goes out for a corner. Corner to Bournemouth.
And all of a sudden, there's a lot of fireworks popping off around the Vitality. Is it coincidence, or is it because they're 2-0 up?
It is the week of the fireworks. Newcastle haven't brought any pyrotechnics tonight to the Vitality. This has been as limp a performance we've seen from any house team. And he will of course point to the extremely long injury list has been a huge factor. Ball comes in. There's appeals that Gordon handled it. Don't think he did. Chance to break away, but Willock is tackled by Christie. It feels like Bournemouth have a firm grip on this and they're not going to let it slip late on. But they can't take anything for granted. And the referee is going to have a VAR check of this. Is he? I think so. They will delay the restart to have a look to see if Gordon handled it. Really would be surprised if that's given a hand. Hits his lower stomach, his hands are there, but they're right down by his side, surely.
doesn't look like it's me. The referee's holding.
It's one of those where if he scores, you would say, okay, it's pushed his hand and you can't have any sort of handball by scoring, but not defending a corner like that. No surprise to see that no further VAR intervention is needed. I'm surprised they had to hold up play at all for it.
I'm just thinking about the second goal they conceded, and it was Sinistera that got across the front post, and from a set piece it's not like Newcastle to concede, and when I look at the injury list, and Byrne, Botman, Isak, big, strong, physical men, I wonder if he ever would have got across there if the first 11 was out.
It's trying times for Eddie Howe, and it just shows you can have all the money in the world if the injuries happen. It's going to deplete any squad when you've this many of them, and including the players who've gone off today. It's 13, 14 first team players all unavailable to Eddie Howe at the moment. That's going to affect any manager. And all coaches have some degree of injury woes at this time of year, but Newcastle are hit harder than anyone else at the moment.
I think the one positive Eddie Howe can take out of it is it'll have funds to spend in January.
Yes, no shortage of that. As Lascelles goes long and searching, they're looking for poor Ben Parkinson, who has had this lonely role up front. He's come on, first appearance for the first team, and he's not even had scraps to feed off. Willock has it here, 12 yards outside the penalty area, in front of the D, tries to shake off Cook. Livramento provides himself on the right hand side, back into Willock, low to the feet of Longstaff, who tried a fancy flick, and that wasn't the time or place for Adam Christie. Will pick it up and break. He's got energy in the legs. Ryan Christie, 70-80 yards run into the penalty area. Solanke left-footed into the side netting, looking for his hat-trick. Solanke was never going to cut that back, but he was quite a way wide in the end.
Yeah, he was. He was 5-on-3 for a moment there. Anthony Gordon was breaking his neck to try and get back, but his legs just wouldn't carry him. Plays it to his left-hand side, and it's Dominic Solanke on a hat-trick. Just gets his first touch wrong, shoots from underneath his feet, smashes it into the side netting. Will he get a better chance for the Premier League hat-trick?
So the international break to come. Newcastle will resume at Chelsea at home. They play Paris Saint-Germain away in the Champions League. Followed by the visit of Manchester United to St James's Park in the Premier League. And Eddie Howe will be praying that injury list subsides in the meantime. And as you alluded to earlier on, Glenn, he'll be hoping that those players who do go off on international duty come back unharmed. Kelly makes an interception at the back for Bournemouth. Good clearance. Onto Dango Ouattara. He takes on Ritchie, and he's been able to push him aside. Solanke screaming for the middle. On the far side is Tavernier. They're all arriving. Sinistera shoots. Saved again by Pope. He got it on target, but it didn't quite have the power to beat Nick Pope.
No, he didn't. He goes for placement over power, and Nick Pope's equal to it, but that's Bournemouth's 15th shot, 8 on target, and I think that speaks volumes of how well the Newcastle goalkeeper's done this afternoon. Without doubt, their best player on the evening.
Bournemouth on their way out of the bottom three. Can they make it even better? Dango Ouattara again. Solanke screaming for it. Ouattara on his own takes it on and hits it straight at Nick Pope. It is no exaggeration to say Bournemouth could have had 5 or 6 goals today. Easy.
Yes, without doubt, and they should have scored there. They should have put this game to bed. Sinistera right through the middle, has got options, decides to go on his own and hits it right down Nick Pope's throat. If they concede now, wow.
Willock nutmegs Ryan Christie, but can't pick out Ben Parkinson with the pass. 7 minutes to be added on. That brings a roar from the Newcastle fans, who are hoping that their team might have a resurrection in them. Gordon pushes it to the byline, accelerates away from Adam Smith, then gives in a low ball to the edge of the box to Joe Linton. He twists and turns and does a backheel back out to Gordon, who then swings in the cross, falls to Matt Ritchie against his own club, but it's straight at the keeper. It's a comfortable save for Neto. Matt Ritchie might have done a bit better there.
Yes, it just falls so kindly for Matt Ritchie. His first touch is brilliant, his second touch just gets out of his feet, and so many times at the Vitality we've seen Matty Ritchie whip it into that top corner. This time it wasn't to be, and Neto falls to his right hand side and gladly catches the ball.
Matt Ritchie, who when he initially went to Newcastle on one of his first visits back into Bournemouth, he scored in the 2-2 draw here. We've played 1 of the 7 minutes already. Bournemouth 2, Newcastle United 0 here. Kelly kicks the ball away. Newcastle didn't like that. But of course it's the multi-ball system, and you will be surprised to hear that the the Bournemouth ball boys aren't being quite as enthusiastic about returning the ball to Newcastle as they might be. That's the most nonchalant throw of a ball from that youngster down there, who clearly doesn't want Newcastle to recycle this quickly. Yeah. Every team doesn't.
As Matty Ritchie approached him, he just threw it over his head.
Sinister against Sinister has been all over this game since coming on. He wins it in the midfield again. He gives it to Christie in the box. Low ball in. Tavernier scuffs the shot wide. 7 it could have been for Bournemouth. So many missed chances, and it may not matter too much today because they have scored twice, but in other games Bournemouth are going to have to be more ruthless in front of goal than they've been today. Free kick to Newcastle on the edge of the box. Pope, who was trying to get the ball back to Trippier to take the free kick, collided with Tavernier there. It's much ado about nothing, but of course all sort of collisions like that bring reactions, pantomime style from the crowd. And the referee, Chris Kavanagh, comes across just to have a word with Nick Pope and says, take it easy.
That's the last thing you want in the 92nd minute. You want to get the game going, you want to get a little bit of momentum.
You never say never in the Premier League, but it feels beyond Newcastle now. 2-0 down, almost midway through the 7 minutes. Trippier back to Lascelles. Tottenham thought they were headed for a victory at Molineux earlier on today, and Wolves got 2 extremely late goals to turn it around. Lascelles on the halfway line gives it into Matt Ritchie, back out to Joe Willock just in front of the stationary Eddie Howe, who's looking on, and he doesn't look happy. Why would he? In these circumstances, Livramento can't get onto the back heel from Ben Parkinson, and Newcastle lose possession again, and it's another storming run through an absent Newcastle midfield. Pass though given away by Guattara there, needed to be more accurate. Here comes Lascelles forward. Newcastle might as well throw caution to the wind now. Willock needs support, and Ritchie provides it back behind. Newcastle look exhausted though. Those extra miles in the legs go to Germany in the Champions League in midweek. Telling at this stage now. Longstaff out to the left wing to Fabian Schär, who's relinquished his defensive duties. Good run by Longstaff into the penalty area. Low cross straight at Christie. Brian Christie relieved to hammer it away. 2-0 Bournemouth.
Yes, and the openness of the game you would think would suit Newcastle, but it hasn't. It's suited Bournemouth.
Schär goes from miles out. Big roar from the Bournemouth fans as it sails over the top, and Newcastle look done.
Yes, they do indeed. You see a substitution being making. There's Joe Willock coming off. Graf going on in the 94th minute. Not exactly what you want from Graf's point of view. All of a sudden it does feel like Bournemouth around the ground are going to get a vital 3 points heading into the international break, and it just sets them apart from the chasing pack a little bit, gives them breathing space. 3 points, it's huge at this point in the season.
Absolutely. Bournemouth, they've got that win in the home game against Burnley, the last home league game here at the Vitality, and they have built upon it, shrugging off the 6-1 defeat away at Man City last weekend. They are on their way to another 3 points here, and those 6 points combined, massive, absolutely massive. Before these last 2 home games, Bournemouth only had 3 points on the board. Late change for the home side, and they are going to bring on midfielder Joe Rothwell here. Rothwell, who played against Newcastle for his own team, Blackburn, in cup competitions in recent seasons. He'll come on for Tavernier, who's put in a good shift today. Lots of energy, covered a lot of ground, but this is just running down the clock stuff now from Areola.
Yes, it is indeed. Tavernier on the opposite side of the field. Best way I can describe it is ambles off the field. I actually can't believe the referee hasn't chased him off a little bit, because it's taken an age to get off. Everyone around the stadium on their feet applauding the young man's performance. I think more than that, they're looking like they're applauding a mighty 2-0 win against Newcastle United.
That'll be back to the drawing board for Eddie Howe, and I guess in the manner that Bournemouth have just shrugged off that 6-1 defeat at Manchester City, that's what Newcastle have to do now. Just put this down as a bad day in the office, a culmination of unfortunate events with all the injuries. But even the most reliable types like Trippier have made little silly errors tonight that have compounded everything.
Yes, without doubt, like you say, Newcastle, this will be pushed away. They'll have a look at it, they'll see where they can get better, and they'll move on. And I think the busiest men in St James's Park. Going to be the physios over the international break, trying to get men back.
You'll hear in the background the Bournemouth fans cheering every pass, and it always amuses me in football. I mean, Bournemouth, who've had a terrible run of results this season, the supporters really should be down in the doldrum. It's amazing what 2 home wins back-to-back will do to improve the mood of a football fan base.
Yeah, it is, and the best thing about that, every single pass was negative until that.
Christie's in around the back of Trippier here. 4 on 3 if they're quick enough. Christie back to Dango Ouattara. Pope with the reaction save. Well, if it wasn't for Nick Pope, Bournemouth would have scored a hatful today. Another corner, and quite how Dango Ouattara's not scored there, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a brilliant ball back, and he steps onto it, gets good perch on it, takes the deflection, and still Pope's equal to it. Throws out a huge right arm, keeps it out of the back of the net.
Incredible save.
It's an absolutely fantastic save. But how many times have Bournemouth had 5 on 3, 4 on 2 in this game? It's incredible. The tracking runs from Newcastle players just have not been there.
Shot was only about 12 yards out, and it took a deflection between where it was struck and where he saved it. Incredible reaction time from Nick Pope to elevate his arm to save, but it doesn't save Newcastle today. They have been beaten. It is a first defeated 2.5 months for Eddie Howe's side. He's denied against his old club, and this is a very important win for Andoni Iraola. Star of the show, Dominic Solanke, who wasted a big chance in the first half but took 2 goals in the second period, and Newcastle were out of ideas. In truth, Glenmurray, long before the end here.
Yes, they were. They looked tired, they looked a little bit jaded. A trip midweek to Germany just showed in the legs, showed in the quality, and Bournemouth smelt that. They smelt a little bit of weakness, I suppose, from Newcastle. Players out, they fancied it, they took the game to them from the first moment, and they thoroughly deserved their 2-0 victory. It should have been more, in all honesty.
So a second Premier League win of the season for Bournemouth. It is enough to move them up and out of the bottom 3 for now. There is a long way to go, but 12 games in, Andoni Iraola's side have reached that key moment where there are 3 teams in worse off positions, and all they've got to do is keep that right the way through till May. This gives them something to fight for. It gives them something to hold on to. But for Newcastle, a team who've enjoyed so many great moments over the last 18 months, this feels a low moment, and it'll be interesting to see how they are going to react.